Hoop Heads podcast is brought to you by Head Start Basketball.
The crazy thing is that the coaches that all complain that their teams don't shoot, it's because their practices are filled with their team not shooting. Don't complain if your team sucks at shooting and you don't spend half your practice on shooting. I don't want to hear it. So it's one of those things like I would want to have a ton of shooting.
Jason Fry has served with Pure Sweat Basketball since 2013 and is currently the director of Pure Sweat Basketball Skills Coaches. Jason has coached as an assistant for the past 9 years at Drury University, Missouri Baptist University, and Whitfield School. Jason was born and raised in Austin, Texas, where he played high school basketball at Austin High School. After 3 years of working full-time for the Parks and Recreation Department, he took the opportunity to play basketball at Missouri Baptist University, where Jason was part of the 2005 national tournament team. After finishing school in 2008, Jason started coaching at Whitfield School and was an assistant for 2 state Final Four teams. Coach Fry also started Legends Basketball. Coach Fry left Whitfield and coached at Missouri Baptist University for 3 years, serving as an assistant for the men's and women's basketball programs. Coach Fry spent a year at Drury University, where the ladies program finished number 1 in the nation in three-point percentage and played in a Sweet 16 game. Since 2016, he has been a part of the Whitfield School basketball program. Jason joined Pure Sweat as the first employee to work alongside Drew Hanlen, helping build the company to where it is today. Jason has recently published a new book called The Coach's Season, which would make a tremendous addition to any coach's library. Make sure you take some notes as you enjoy this episode of the Hoop Heads podcast with Coach Jason Fry from Pure Sweat Basketball. When you're all done listening to this awesome episode, please jump over to iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher and leave us a 5-star rating and review. When you do, it helps others out there to find the Hoop Heads podcast and helps us to continue our mission of helping to grow the great game of basketball.
Hello and welcome to the Hoop Heads podcast. It's Mike Klinzing here with my co-host Jason Sunkel, and tonight we are fortunate to have with us Jason Fry, Relationship Manager for Pure Sweat Basketball. Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Hey guys, I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. We're excited to get on and have a conversation with you. I know you got a new book coming out that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the podcast, and you've had some great experiences in the game to share with our audience. So what we want to do here, Jason, is start out by talking about how you got into basketball as a kid. What was it about the game that first drew you in?
Man, you know what? It was being a part of a team and having that brotherhood, and it was something that I learned all the way back in 4th grade. You know, we had a really, really special team when we were in, some all-star league, some team, whatever it was, the YMCA or whatever, South Austin Youth. And we had a really, really good team that ended up, all those guys ended up going and doing some really big things. One was an All-American in soccer. One was a really, really great basketball player. So we had a great team, and that first initial taste of success probably is what hooked me. And then playing with my dad, we played in a little gym, and we played with the men in our church, and that got us to where we were waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning on Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday mornings to go play with those guys. So getting introduced to basketball at that young age really just took me and my twin brother, it took us by storm.
Yeah, I think getting up and playing with your dad as a kid, I know that's something I used to do occasionally. I didn't get up at 5 in the morning, but my dad would play in an old man's league, quote unquote old man's league, and I would go and sometimes try to sneak out of the court with him, and that was something that when you got a chance to spend time with your parent, and then also getting to play basketball right along with that, I think that's something that any kid is going to remember, and it's going to help draw them into the game of basketball. What can you remember anything about like your coaches from that early time that sticks out to you that kind of again really got you into the game of basketball and got you focused on what you were doing?
Yeah, Coach Wright, he was a phenomenal coach, at least for the young age. I mean, when you coach really, really good players, you find out that you seem to know a lot more than when you coach some kids that aren't very good, or at least that's how everybody makes it sound. So I thought he did a really great job, and it was just something that allowed me to want to continue. And then it really was those guys in my church and those men in that group that kind of molded us in because we didn't really have much youth after that. So 4th grade till 7th grade, we didn't have that much of a taste except for those men. And they never let us win. You know, it was something like if we actually hit a 3 or we got a jump shot that we made, man, it was like the best day ever. Because they just never would let us do this. If we drove, they met us with a body, and, you know, we fell down to the ground. You know, but it was something that helped instill a little bit of toughness, I guess. Just a desire to want to make that one shot.
Yeah, I think that competitiveness that brings out when you're playing against, in that case, adults, when you're a kid and they're not letting you win, I think that draws out the competitiveness in you compared to, again, kids today, I think, are playing so many games with kids their own age, and this is something I've said on many podcasts with other coaches, but, you know, I think the system today is set up where when you're always playing with a coach, when you're always playing with your parents in the stands, when you're always playing with an official, and you're not playing nearly as much pickup basketball as kids did in the past, I think that limits or inhibits the competitiveness of today's player. Do you find that to be the case in your experience?
Yes, and I think that it just needs to be flipped. I think we're so focused on the competitiveness and the competition of a game in front of people with a legit scoreboard and the referee, and I think that needs to be flipped. I think the one-on-one stuff is super important. Like, let's compete there. I want to try to win there. I want my kids to try to win there. Let's get 2-on-2 games. Let's do whatever it takes. Let's compete to try to win, but it doesn't have to be the 5-on-5 games. Like, that's what's wrong, I think. And I think that if we can focus on getting kids to try to compete to win in everything they do, then our kids are going to be a whole lot more successful.
Yeah, do you think there's a way, and this is something that, again, I've thought about, and I'm not quite sure what the answer is, and I know the answer is not a simple one, but to your point, we've had so much of this emphasis on 5-on-5, whether it's through the AAU system or the club circuit, or however you want to phrase it, but especially with younger kids, it seems like we could get so much more out of them if we could play more small-sided games. If we were playing 3-on-3 in 4th grade instead of playing 5-on-5, because I feel like when you play 5-on-5 when you're 8 or 9 years old, you spend so much time just jogging between the two top of the keys as opposed to actually playing the game. And I think it's, you're fighting a system where moms and dads and everybody else, want to see kids play the adult version of basketball. But I think if we could somehow educate people and really start to push that 3-on-3, those half-court games, those small-sided games, I think we develop better and more skilled players.
Mike, you hit it on the head. The small-sided games, like if you're a competitor and you can win religiously in 3-on-3, you can't tell me you can't play 5-on-5, because your understanding of spacing is just immense. And so I think it's super important to start off in that 2-on-2, one-third of the side of the floor. Let's play there. Then let's take it to the 3-on-3. But understanding the certain thing, understanding the angles, understanding playing in triangles, understanding who goes where off certain things, and that's going to be more of the 3-on-3 types of situations that you're going to see than playing that 5-on-5. And then playing on 5-on-5 is going to limit your touches. I mean, I'd much rather get, me being a shooter, I'd much rather get 14 shots than 4, and I know that I've got that if I'm in 3-on-3.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that those small-sided games just give you so many more opportunities, and so many kids, you have so many more chances to be involved in the action. 5-on-5, a lot of times you have, whether you're a defender or you're an offensive player, you're standing off on the weak side and your player's not really involved, whether you're the offense or the defense. And when you're in 3-on-3, there's nowhere to hide. You're always one pass away. You're always involved in whether it's a screening action or whether you're just, you're involved in attacking or whatever the case might be. It just seems like, and it feels like if we could somehow educate people that we could develop so much more skill in our young players if we could spend more of that time playing 3-on-3 as opposed to 5-on-4. One of the things that I'm excited about is the fact that 3-on-3 is going to be in the Olympics, and I think that's going to give it a little bit more exposure, which I hope pushes it towards more kids being able to play it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. If we can get USA, and USA is on board, so with that being the case, it's a big thing for the game of basketball. It's a good thing for the game for how we want to teach it, and that's been something that Pure Sweat's been trying to do for quite a long time. Has been the focus of getting them in those 3-on-3 situations and having the kids work in those situations to become successful in 5-on-5. Because if you think about it, if we are doing a ball screen with the same side guard lifting up, we're in a 3-on-3 situation. The 5-on-5, the other two guys over on the weak side should be doing some type of weak side action, pin down, a flare screen. It doesn't matter. They should be doing it. So we are actually repping 3-on-3s and 2-on-2s all the time in a 5-on-5 game. We just need to be really, really good at it in the 3-on-3 situations.
Yeah, and it's harder, I think, as a coach to, especially if you talk about at the youth level. If you're coaching a youth level 5-on-5 team and you're trying to develop all those actions like you're describing, you're one person who's coaching that 5-on-5, and you're trying to watch the strong side action, you're trying to watch the weak side action, you're trying to get all that stuff in and make sure that everybody on the floor is doing what they're supposed to do. I think it becomes a huge challenge, especially, again, as one person who maybe is not a professional coach, but maybe it's just a father who has an interest in basketball. And, you think about how much easier it is to watch everything that's happening in a 3-on-3 situation. To your point, whatever those main people are involved in the action, the guys on the weak side, they should be involved in some weak side action. But a lot of times we know that when it's a 5-on-5, the coach is focused on the strong side, and those two players on the weak side are just standing there doing nothing. And it would be great if we could get them, get everybody involved in the action. It makes it easier for the coach to be able to see what's going on.
Oh, no doubt. And then the other thing is, with it being 3-on-3, is it allows a coach who doesn't know quite as much to be able to read less and to manage a little bit less. And then for them to get better at knowing those circumstances and being able to teach those circumstances. And I think that that's crucial for the game at the younger level and for those coaches. We just did a clinic for youth coaches, and I had a coach ask me something like super elementary. I think that's what's missing. Like, these youth coaches don't have that middle ground, that piece. Everything wants to be that super elite Jason Tatum coming out of high school type of thing, and it's like we're missing the main piece of being able to teach these kids the most important things at that youth level.
So talk about this clinic that you guys did and what the focus of it was in terms of when you would do a clinic like that for youth coaches. What are some of the main points that you're trying to get across to a youth coach who's working with young kids?
Yeah, no doubt. So what we want to do is, obviously, with everything that we do, whether it's the youth clinic or it's the Drew Hanlen Basketball Academy, whatever it is, we want to give them the options and give them the answers, the solutions to issues that they have. So understanding balance for a kid, understanding where to place the ball, place the hand on the ball, where to place the balance hand. At a younger age kid, you need to be more focused on the kid maybe sticking their landing than worried about whether or not your elbow is in or your elbow's a little bit out, whether or not you're really holding that follow through, whether or not you're rotating and twisting. We just want the kid staying a little bit wider and staying on the shot. So once you can fix those things, little pieces, then we can grow these shooters and these players into becoming better players because they've already grown up with, okay, I started off by staying through my shot and sticking my landing. Well, now I eliminated the twist. Well, now I'm strong enough because my hips are ready on my shot. Well, now I'm strong enough to where I don't have to twist, or I don't have to push through the shot and twist my shoulders instead of my hips. So they're going to be able to be a whole lot more successful from a kid's standpoint as they grow up. And then the coach is going to be a whole lot more successful because they know how to teach. Okay, did you stay on your landing? That's a really easy thing for a coach who doesn't know much about it to teach and to understand. So that was one of the main things. Coach Pugh did a phenomenal job of talking about certain skills that they need to work on, certain types of finishes. We spoke about preparing coaches, whether it's at the youth level or the high school level, or even the college level, it doesn't matter. The best coaches are truly prepared for what they've got. So at the youth level, you want to have just a couple things that you can ingrain to these kids. You can't overload them, but we can give them a couple things, standards, expectations that they can choose to teach their kids and to be disciplined on them, so that the next level they can choose something else. I like to think about youth coaches and working with kids as a blank canvas. You get to paint that canvas however you want. It can be the greatest masterpiece that you've ever done, but it's going to take like a brush stroke by brush stroke, and it starts off completely blank. So by you focusing on the feet, by you focusing on the balance, you're able to basically build that foundation. And now you can start to set up the ravine. Now you can start to set up the trees. Now you can start to set up the mountains. Now you can start to make your masterpiece how you want it as they progress through junior high and then high school.
So I'm going to take two things that you said there, Jason, that stand out for me. One is when I hear you talking about the balance and the feet, and that's one of the things that I think whenever I go and I watch, a youth basketball practice, and a lot of times I've coached all my kids now. I'm actually restarting the process with my third grade daughter now, and so we spend a ton of time, just working on jump stops without falling over, working on getting wide and getting your bottom down so you have good balance. We work on pivots and making sure that they're not lifting up that pivot foot, and making sure, just like you described on your shot, that they're balanced, they're not leaning to the side. And then I look down at these other coaches sometimes that are practicing in the same gym, and they're doing all these different things that have nothing to do with the feet, that are way beyond the skill level of their players. And
yes, absolutely.
So I think it's really key for youth coaches out there, as much as you possibly can, to focus on that footwork and balance, because regardless of whether you're a third grade basketball player or you're an NBA basketball player, can you talk a little bit about the importance of feet and balance to any basketball player's success? I know you've talked about it a little, but even maybe extend it up to the high school, college, pro players.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to kind of piggyback off what you were saying. One of the biggest things that I've learned recently, especially reading the book "Practice Perfect" by Doug Lemove.
I just bought that book at Half Price Books yesterday.
I'm telling you, it's a phenomenal book. It's certainly something you can't attack all 42, but it's very, very powerful with the way that you get thinking about how you could coach, and it's even better for a teacher. But one of the things that they talk about is, like you said, you look down across the gym and you see somebody working on some fancy step back, or they want to work on the James Harden extra push out step. Well, that's terrific. However, your main focus was maybe hips dropping a little bit to start with your player, hips drop. Okay, well, they start doing all this other stuff. Well, that changes the mindset of the hips dropping. So now we lose the focus of the hips drop, which was the number one focus for the day, or the number one focus for the 4 weeks that we have together. And then now I'm starting to incorporate, well, let's add this drill, and let's add this piece of the drill, and then let's take it into a spin move, and then let's go here. Well, as soon as I dribbled, my hips rose. Well, so now every other piece of the drill sacrificed. And so now I am actually ingraining a really bad habit. So going back to it, teaching and repping the balance is super important. You don't have that, or you lose sight and you lose focus on teaching that and making sure that your kid stays doing that. If you lose sight of that, then saying it doesn't matter. Allowing that to occur doesn't matter anymore for the success of the kid with their hips being dropped or them staying on balance. We've done numerous studies, and we haven't done them within the last 2 years of doing it, but we knew that like the 10 best shooters shot roughly like 72% from the three wide open if they stayed on balance and didn't twist. Well, they dropped like 20% if they did twist. That's a big jump. You talk about any kid. If any kid drops 20%, they go from being a 30% to 10%. Well, I like to flip that. That means it's a 90% chance it's going to be a miss. I don't want that. I don't want that kid shooting ever. So it needs to be a focus, like we've got to make sure that our kids are shooting on balance every single time. And it's something that my kids hear all the time, and I think that it's super important that coaches rep the balance. If you're not on balance, you shouldn't shoot that shot. If you're not on balance, you go down 9% as a shooter anyways. So now that means that you're not being a good teammate by shooting a shot that you shouldn't be shooting.
Can you talk a little bit about your philosophy, your personal philosophy in terms of whether you teach younger kids, and I'm talking, let's say, 12 and under, how much do you work with them on the 1-2 step versus the hop? Is there a balance between which one you prefer with younger kids, or do you try to teach both? What's your thought on that?
Mike, we're going to get into trouble here. You know what? I'm a lifer on a 1-2. I think that there's times creating separation calls for a little bit of a hop. I think what a lot of people don't understand, if we do slow motion on the hop, you are going to see one foot hit before the other. So it's technically still a 1-2. I mean, very rarely are players actually hitting the ground at the exact same time for a hop to be considered a hop. I'm a 1-2 guy because that gives you 2 breaks. So you've got 1 break, 2 breaks, and now I'm able to rise up. Well, hopefully I had my hips dropped, and now I'm able to stay on balance. If you go off the bounce, full speed, and you go into a hop, you will not be on balance, and it won't be a good shot. And that's my personal preference. There are some players that will like catch on a 1 and then a hop, so then it's still technically a 1-2. So there's different ways and different scenarios at which you could actually say a hop is okay. And certain situations, I'm okay with it just because I know that the kid's actually still doing a little mini 1-2 shot.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I know one of the things that I've really tried to instill whenever I'm working with a kid on their shot is to use that 1-2, because I feel like, especially for younger kids, I just think that the balance and control of their body and then therefore their shot is so much better. And I've seen very, very, very few, I could probably count on one hand the number of kids under the age of 12 that can execute a hop and have any kind of balance and power coming out of their legs to drive that ball up towards the basket. So I really try to hit on the 1-2. So I was glad to hear you say that as well, that I think it just makes more sense. And like you said, technically the hop is a 1-2 because most people aren't hitting their feet exactly at the same time. But I think if you can teach the 1-2 step to younger kids, I think you're going to end up with better results in the long run. And then obviously as they get stronger and they get more experience and they get better, then you can start to add those other things to their game that, again, they're going to need, like you said, to separate from their defender and to be able to create space and all those types of things.
Yes. Absolutely. And here's the other thing too, with what you're doing. By doing the 1-2, you are staying consistent. And hands down, working with any player, consistency is the best tool. So by staying 1-2, let's stay consistent and be consistent with it every time you shoot. And I think that that's the most important thing.
So when you go to these clinics that you guys are doing, what are some of the common questions you get from youth coaches? What are some of the things that they have the biggest concerns about that they're looking to learn more about when they attend a clinic?
You know what? I think it's a lot of the how. And that's one thing that I love about Drew and the way that he teaches, because he is giving you the how. That's one thing youth coaches are missing. They're missing the how do I teach it? How do I do it? And then what drills can I do to do that focus? And I think that those are probably the biggest things is what are some drills that I can do to improve my kids' footwork? How could I do that? If we're talking about the 1-2, how do I improve my kids' shooting on the 1-2? Well, the easy answer is what offense are we running? And then let's work on those shots that we're getting from those spots in those 1-2 situations. So I think that it's just important on, for youth coaches, hey, they need to shoot, and they need to shoot a ton. Hey, we got to have this press. We got to be able to do this. You know what? Okay. You can get a press breaker anytime you want. We need to focus on shooting, because if we do break the press, we need to be able to finish, and we need to be able to knock down the shot. Well, all the guys who aren't really focused on truly teaching the game necessarily, they want to play a zone. Well, if I don't shoot well, then the zone is effective and they win. Well, I want my kids to I want my kids to win every 4-minute quarter. Like that's our goal. Let's win 4 minutes. And by playing zone, if you can't shoot, it's pretty difficult to win those 4 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a zone, I've talked about it numerous times. I've written some articles about it. I just think if you're playing zone defense as a youth basketball coach, you're just doing such a disservice to not only your own players, but to the other team. You think about, a 9-year-old trying to play against a zone, and, they can't penetrate in against two guys and jump stop and make a good pass. They can't throw a skip pass. So all the things that you would teach a high school team to be able to do to attack a zone, an 8 or 9-year-old kid just isn't, they're just not capable of doing that. And so I think that's something that, is really discouraging whenever I see, coaches at whatever, in a tournament or in a league, and they're playing zone. I just shake my head and just, wish you could, again, that they were more educated. Because all you'd have to do is go on and do a quick internet search and, read the articles by lots of people that have a lot more knowledge of basketball than me, and realize that, hey, you're doing your team, your kids, the other team, a disservice by playing that zone.
Yeah, no doubt. And you know what? The other thing too is just it's an accountability thing, I think, as well. When you give a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old a zone, you give them one little area, and they're like, okay, well then that's all I got to do. That's all I got to guard. Okay. So then when the ball moves just a hair down outside of that area, the kid's like, well, that wasn't my area. So we're not giving the kid the accountability of, hey, let's teach them how to guard. Let's teach them how to really defend. Zones are super effective. Let's be real. I talked to a college coach the other day, and he said if he went back to high school, he would junk it up every single day to win every single game. To play that crappy, hey, we're going to buy one, we're going to try and go two. But that's because at that level, he needs to win, and he has to win. At the youth level, we don't. We need them to be able to guard. And every college coach that I've interviewed recently for the second book has said, that's one of the missing things, that they can't guard. And if a coach has to spend time on teaching how to guard, they're losing time on the overall big picture of what their team needs to do successfully. So they're just losing time. And it's something that we have the ability to, as youth coaches, as younger coaches, as high school coaches, is to teach them how to guard.
Yeah, I think that comes down to, again, we want to teach the kids how to play the game, and we want to teach them how to play it correctly. And yet the question I have for you, and I know what the answer is, but I'm going to ask it anyway to let you expound upon it. What's your feeling in terms of, in a youth basketball practice, how much time should youth coaches be dedicating to working on the fundamental skills of their players and their ability to read defenses and play the game, versus how much time they should be spending putting in, as you described, press breakers and set plays and out of bounds plays and that kind of thing? What's your feeling on that?
Oh man, I would shoot the heck out of the ball. The crazy thing is that the coaches that all complain that their teams don't shoot, it's because their practices are filled with their team not shooting. Don't complain if your team sucks at shooting and you don't spend half your practice on shooting. I don't want to hear it. So it's one of those things, like I would want to have a ton of shooting. I want to have situations and scenarios at which my kids are going to see. Offensive advantages and disadvantages are huge. They happen a ton. So the more our players can see that and be able to respond to that, I think is super important. So I would put as much as possible with shooting, and I would put scenarios. Let's go into our 3-on-2 situation. Let's go with our 5-on-4 situation. Let's get a bad beat drill. Let's play with defense starting in the complete trail. Let's play with defense starting in dead even. Let's play with help side being over, and then let's kick it out and go from there. So I think that we need to do more of those situations and scenarios that we actually see in games and have the kids play out of those than having to rep my baseline out of bounds play.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. That's one of the things that I think over time, in the last, I would say 5 years, as I've become more educated myself and just had an opportunity to read more things on the internet, be able to see videos of coaches that are doing great things, be able to go and attend practices from other coaches. I think that advantage-disadvantage situation where you're controlling the beginning of the play And then after that, just letting the kids play. I think that's been a huge, huge improvement in my own coaching that's made the kids that I've been able to touch better as a result of that. I just think it's something that there's no way, again, you want the practice to be as game-like as you possibly can. And as you described, there's no way to make it more game-like than to put them in situations that are going to appear when they're actually playing.
Absolutely.
So let's jump back to when you were coming up through high school and talk a little bit about your high school and college playing career and how that eventually influenced you as you got into coaching.
Oh, great. Austin High School in Austin, Texas, man, it was competitive. I mean, you don't see what some of these kids have here, especially in St. Louis, the school that I coached at, or even a lot of private schools and a lot of public schools. You don't see the freshmen playing. That didn't happen back in the day. You know, it was filled with juniors and seniors, so that was a tough fight to try to crack that. I didn't get to play varsity until junior year. And junior year, I had a heck of a coach, and he's actually one of my best buddies today, Kirk Wrigley. He's a retired principal. We've got some things cooking on a leadership program for incoming seniors. So we do stuff still together today. We climb mountains together every summer. So we're very, very close. But he had that country accent. He just made me want to play for him. And it was not made, but he was the person that I drew to. Everybody's got that person that you want to be around because they're an amazing leader, because they make you better as a person. And he did that for me. So, playing my junior year, the only way I was going to get minutes was if I took charges. Well, I averaged 5 charges taken a game because I wanted to play. And so,
can I stop you right there for a second?
Yeah.
Because I want to piggyback on that point that you just made, and then let you get back to your story. Sure. I think that's something that players today, and anybody out there who's a parent of a player, or you're a player yourself and you're listening, I think what Jason just said is so critically important, and that is that you wanted to play, and so you figured out something that maybe wasn't going to be your most favorite thing that you wanted to do. You probably didn't necessarily want to take 5 charges a game. What you wanted to be do was shooting the ball and scoring and like every other player. But you looked around at the situation. You said, look, how do I get on the floor? I do it by doing something that my coach values, that my coach wants, that maybe is not what I want to do, but that's what's going to get me out on the court. And I think that's something that a lot of today's players don't understand. Everybody wants to be the star. Everybody wants to take tons of shots. And I see very few kids anymore who kind of are looking at the situation on their team or with their coach analytically and saying, what can I do that's going to enable me to get out on the floor that may not be what I want to do, but it's a role that my team needs to have filled. And I just think that's a tremendous point that you just made. And I apologize for interrupting you, but I think that was a key point that any player out there or any parent can learn from to make them give them a better opportunity to get out on the floor and play.
Oh, absolutely. And hopefully it shows that I was a good teammate. And that's what's going to get you on the floor. If you're a hell of a teammate, man, you're gonna play. If you're going to do what coach asks you to do, you're going to get more minutes. Now, is it a lot of minutes? Maybe, maybe not. But you're going to play if you're doing exactly what coach wants you to do. That was something that I did. And then senior year, my twin brother, he was playing point guard, and I mean, we had a much better team. So I probably took a few less charges that year because I did shoot a lot more. I had a great point guard, so I may have chosen not to take as many.
I understand.
But you know what? I was still taking numerous. I mean, my brother, I think he would probably only beat me by 10 charges for the whole year. So that was something we want to do. And, it didn't matter that a kid was coming full speed. I'd still take it. I had a bruised tailbone for 2 months after the season's over. So I definitely had the scars to prove that I wanted to play and to prove that I wanted to be a good teammate and to prove that I wanted to win. And then after high school, I didn't get recruited. And, back in the day, there weren't recruiting videos and there weren't recruiting services. And, it was you basically pimping yourself out to everybody. And, I worked full time at a rec center for 4 years while I traveled. I went to almost every school in Texas to go try out. Every Division II school, I went and tried out. And it was usually between me and a big. And everybody knows 10 years ago who you're going to take. You're going to take the 6'8" guy or the 6 foot white shooter. Well, 10 years ago, you're taking the 6'8" white guy or the 6'8" post. Now, maybe not so much. If you can take a guy that can shoot the crap out of the ball, I'm probably going to take him.
Yeah, it might have a better opportunity today for sure.
Yeah. So, I didn't do it. Coming up to Missouri Baptist was a God thing. I truly was blessed. It was at the time, some people may remember A Purpose-Driven Life was out by Rick Warren. And it was a book that really instilled a lot of churches to work with small groups. Well, the pastor of my church was heading the small group, and I went to it, and he said, Jason, you got to give God a timeline, because I was ready to be done. I told him, I said, I'm done with hoops, done trying to play. I'm 21. It's time to start growing up. And he said, give God a timeline. So I said, all right, fine. God, you got a 1 week. I'm okay. I'm going to talk to the man.
You put him on deadline, man. Holy cow.
I gave the Alpha and the Omega a 1 week timeline. And day by day goes by, and I'm just like, dang, okay, hey, we're 4 days away. We're done, and that was the night of my home group. And it was a Wednesday. And so on Wednesday, the 1 week later, 2 hours before I go to home group, I get a phone call from Missouri Baptist, and they asked me to come out and try out. So, God did it all the way up, and then I came out, and I literally did not miss a shot in my tryout. I hit 2 game winners, and 1 game winner was from like 35 feet. It's like, why the hell would you shoot that? But I banked it. It went in, and everybody's yelling, you got to sign him. And so from that point on, I moved up here. I gave it a shot, and I spent 4 years at Missouri Baptist, and then started coaching immediately after college.
What was the best part for you? Obviously, that was a long time in coming to have a college career. So what was the best part of your college basketball experience?
Man, you know what? Our brotherhood that we had those first 2 years was amazing. We had a squad, and we had a squad that competed, and people had bloody noses. We would close the doors when somebody needed to circle up and fight, and the coaches would leave for 3 minutes. We'd circle up, we'd fight, it'd be over with it. And then, bam, they'd help each other up, and it was over. And then, it was just like a brotherhood that we had. We went out as a team. If we went out to go make some bad decisions, we went out as a team to make bad decisions. So it was a brotherhood that, man, I could never take back. We lived together. We had 6 guys living in a two-bedroom apartment. It was truly the experience that most people want. And we won some games as well, and so that was phenomenal. But yeah, the brotherhood, and heck, one of the guys that was my teammate, was my roommate. He's actually one of our skills coaches for Pure Sweat, and that's Joe Rothweiler. So it's crazy how it kind of always comes back together. But those guys I love.
So after you get done playing, or at what point while you were playing, did you know that you wanted to be a coach? Was that something that hit you after your playing career? Was it something that as you were growing up and as you were going through and playing in college and playing in high school, did you always have it in the back of your mind that you wanted to coach, or was it something that you just sort of fell into?
It's crazy. There are certain times, like my high school coach probably would have told you that I would have been a head coach. He saw it in me, or at least the leadership in me, that he thought I would become a coach. I went to school. I went to Missouri Baptist to actually be a preacher. And no, I didn't think I was going to coach at that time. Missouri Baptist kind of changed some things, and I definitely did a 180 and went a different route and started doing the exercise science thing and became a strength and conditioning specialist. While I was in school, I never thought my senior year that I would be coaching, because my senior year was just an injury-plagued year. Started off really great and then just kept getting hurt. So, no, I hated basketball that senior year, and it was a really tough battle for me. So a lot of people out there who have gone through that, or who are going through that, I mean, there is light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, it does get a lot better, but it was a real struggle for me that senior year to go from being used to winning to not winning at all. So I didn't think I was going to coach. Before I went up to Missouri Baptist, I worked with Luke Axtell, who is still the greatest shooter I have ever rebounded for, worked out with, or anything. I mean, it was the best job to rebound for him because it just kept going through the net. It never, ever missed. Like, we went through, a 1 hour workout and he missed 4 shots, So probably that time was a really good time at which I started to love doing that. And then as soon as I started coaching high school, the high school coach was like, you should be doing this on the side. And that was kind of, I loved doing it. I loved teaching it. I loved helping kids get better. And I was like, you know what, maybe I will. So that's kind of how it all started.
How did you and Luke get connected initially?
Actually, he dated a really good friend of mine. And I'm like, oh my goodness, dude, I love you. You went to the rival high school. I mean, you were the guy I looked up to, as a college player playing at University of Texas. Had the shaggy hair, loved it, Like, I even bought his jersey one time just to play around. Like, I bought it online. I sent it to him, and I was going to go hang out with him. And I came in wearing it, his KU jersey. And, he gave me a lot of crap for that, and I gave him a lot of crap for that. But, yeah, it was just a girlfriend of mine who happened to be
yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that really is that, you think about things that are sort of a coincidence, and, all of a sudden it takes you down this path that maybe you never would have anticipated, that you probably, I'm sure, didn't spend a whole lot of time thinking you were going to be an individual skills trainer. If anything, you probably thought, hey, maybe I'll be a high school coach. And now all of a sudden you have an opportunity to do something totally different, yet still teaching the game of basketball.
Yeah. You know what the crazy thing was I wanted to be both a skills coach and a strength coach. So I wanted to have, like, the epitome of all facilities. Like,
one stop shop.
Yeah, I wanted to be great at both. And I actually had a conversation, probably an hour-long talk with Alan Stein. We're talking 7 years ago. And he had told me, he said, Jason, you're going to have to choose which one. One's going to sacrifice. And he said, you can't be known as something that sacrifices. Whatever you do, whatever you're going to put into, you got to make sure that it's the best that you have. And so you won't be able to do both phenomenally well. And so I took his advice, and I stopped doing strength and conditioning, and I started just focusing on the skills and the coaching side.
And what did that business look like for you originally? How did you go about kind of starting on your own from, I don't want to say from scratch, but you worked with Luke, and then slowly as you're picking up more players, and describe what your business looked like at first.
Oh man, the business looked like at first it was one kid at a time. And I used my strength and conditioning facility. I used that as my platform. So if there was a kid that I wanted to train, I'd go in there and I'd go do box jumps, and I would win that kid over doing box jumps, because we would put one box on top of another, and I would jump up there and get on top of it. And then I would put another box up there, and I would jump up there and get on top of it. And I would say, if you want to do this, if you want to get really good on the court, if you want to get really good here, then you need to be seeing me. And I knew that they were already really strong, really fast, really quick, really whatever it was on the strength side. So I knew that I could get their game to match the physical ability that they had. So, that was how it was. It was one person by one person. I happened to actually do the strength and conditioning and work with a few other people that worked out Webster Groves, which is a high school here in St. Louis that just won state last year. So that's Coach Blossom. Coach Blossom has been a mentor of mine since those days. And so, he was somebody else who I'd piggyback stuff on. And he would say, hey, you need to go train this kid, or this kid needs to come see you. So he would give advice or give my name to them. And a few other coaches would do the same. And they were all coaches that I built relationships with through asking questions, through having a private podcast with them and asking them questions.
Right.
And learning from them, and then establishing that relationship got them to go, okay, I'd be happy to send my kids to you just because I know you're about the right thing. And that's what I've always wanted.
So as you were getting started and you started to build up your base of clients, how did you go about planning your workouts and finding drills or creating drills? What was your process like for, you get a new kid in, what did the process look like in terms of putting together the workout plan for that particular player?
Oh man, great question. And the good thing is I was young and dumb. Man, I would Google I had every single thing that Drew had at the time. This was before we were together. I had every single thing that any other skills coach had out there. And I researched just, what was something that they could do. I never liked the 4-ball thing. I never liked the 3-ball thing. And that was even something that Drew did that I didn't like. A, because I probably wasn't going to be very good at it as well. And then B, I just never saw a need for it. But I would just look up all sorts of the Chris Paul cone drill, and I'd freaking do that one. So it was not the best, but I also got feedback from their head coach too. So not only did I get crap stuff from the internet, but I did get great information from their head coach who said, this is what I need them really good at. Well, okay. So I was able to tie both of those in and get their kid just a little bit better.
So how important is it, if there's anybody out there who's listening that is doing training, and I mean, I'm sure that just like and I know around here, there's so many people that hang out a shingle and are quote basketball trainers. So how important, in your opinion, is it to reach out to the high school coaches of the players that you're working with to be able to get that feedback from them of, look, here's what this kid's role is, or here's where I see them. Can you help them improve on that? How important is that piece of what you guys do now when it comes to the training part of it?
Oh man, that's such a great question. I think it's super important because it's a rectangle, or I guess we should say a square, so it's perfect. You have the parent, you have the kid, you have the head coach, and then you have you as a skills coach. So all four have to work together. I think what you see and what's given the skills coach the bad name, actually I'm going to say trainer, giving the trainer a bad name because I don't think that's a teacher. Trainers don't teach. They just get you, hey, we're going to get you stronger and we're going to get you this. They're not teaching. That's what a coach does. A coach teaches. So skills trainers have a bad name because they do all the stuff and then they pit the kid. Well, hey, you're not playing. You should be playing, but your coach sucks. Well, coach goes, hey, you didn't get this kid a left hand, so you suck. And so it's been something to where it's easy to point fingers at, hey, somebody else, boom, boom. And that's a bad recipe. And I think it's super important to have all four as a square, to where I'm working with parents and we talk about things that we say so that they're consistent with what we say. We want to be consistent with what the head coach is saying. And then we're praising and constantly talking to the kid about how they're getting better as well, so that we can all four work together. So that would be my number one piece of advice for a skills coach, is to make sure that all four work together to serve the kid, because the kid's the most important thing.
Yeah, I think the communication piece of that is huge. Communicating back and forth between all those different groups and people that you mentioned, that's a huge part of it. And again, ultimately, I think the other thing you said that I really think sometimes gets lost in the fray of all the things that are going on out there in the basketball world is that ultimately it's about the kid. And I think sometimes we all forget at times that it's not about the coach. It's not about the parent. It's not about the friend. It's ultimately comes down to, am I doing the best job that I can possibly do to help the kid become a better basketball player and, ultimately use the game of basketball to make them a better person. And sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle. And I think to, again, hear you reiterate the fact that we have to make it kid-centered, that ultimately that's who we're really working for, and we want to give them the best possible product and best possible opportunity to succeed. I think that's key.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? I mean, as soon as you can shift your mentality from it being about me, you see a lot of skills coaches, hey, man, it's my kid. This is what I did. This is what me thing. And I think when you lose sight of me and you're able to focus on them, I need to focus on you, then that's going to ultimately help your business. When you're praising the kid and not praising yourself, that's when it's going to be, you're going to see your business grow. That's going to be when you see somebody else send their kid to you, then somebody else, because they see how you treated the kid and how you were about, I'm focused on you. Screw me. I'm done playing. I can't do anything else. I mean, what good is it for me to get the limelight? This kid needs to get it. So I think that once you shift that mindset, then you're shifting your way towards success versus failure.
So as you started to grow your individual business and eventually you got connected to Drew, can you describe how that happened and then how you two built your relationship and then eventually you ended up working directly with him?
Yeah, man. You know what? I'm probably going to be your best teaching point for persistence. Everything has been persistent, from whether it was me trying to play ball and going to all the colleges and just staying persistent with it, to Drew. I got Drew's phone number so that I could bring him in for a clinic at a facility. Well, we didn't end up paying, so we didn't have Drew, but I had his phone number. And this was my first year of coaching, so this was 9 years ago. 10 years ago, sorry. I just finished year 10. So this was 10 years ago. And so what it was, I think I'm a good coach, right? Because we're winning games and all, it's me. I'm a good coach. And I send Drew a text and I send him another one. I'm stuck in traffic, and I sent him another one a month later. So basically I'd be like, every month I would send him a text. When it became basketball season, I would send him a good luck text. And then what I would do is I set my alarm on my phone to have ESPN alerts for Belmont games. Don't ask me why. I don't have the answer for the why, but I did it. And so I'd be at the bar with buddies and we'd be having beers and then my alarm would go off on my phone. I'd leave the bar. I'd be like, guys, I got to go. And I would go and watch Belmont play. And then I would write some notes down and I would send Drew a text saying, hey man, you really threaded the needle on this, boom, just thinking I knew what I was talking about. Well, little did I know that every night while all his teammates were out partying, Drew was in the library studying. He was studying the game. He was working on NBA stuff, NBA dictionary, NBA sets, NBA defenses. And so I'm over here saying, hey man, way to read your secondary defender. And, and it was something I did every single game. And so it never stopped. Like from that point on, it never stopped. And I think that was his second year. So for basically 2 years, I sent him good luck texts in games. And so he finishes school and he comes out and he says, hey, I called him up one time and I said, hey man, I'm thinking about trying to get this job in Kentucky. And he talked about it, ups and downs, pros and cons, all this stuff. And, I called him when I told him I couldn't take it just because the money wasn't there. I couldn't move my family and wasn't going to do that. And I was really pissed. And he called me up like that next Monday and he said, how about you come work for me? And I said, man, I'd be taking a big leap on this one just because, I don't know what kind of project you got. And he said, you'll never not have a project. I'll always have you busy. And I said, okay, this is a big jump. I mean, I'm going to have to quit my strength and conditioning job because I was a grad assistant, and I quit the job, and I've had a project ever since.
So what was it? Because you're starting to text him while he's still in school playing.
Yeah.
And so what was it about? Because obviously at that point you had no idea that he was going to turn out to be, quote, the Drew Hanlen. So what was it about him at that point that made you say, hey, I want to follow this guy? There's something about him that makes me want to go and get to know him better.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, it was he was super relevant in our town. I mean, you know, everything was about the guy, in terms of the game and in high school or college. I mean, that's what it was. And he still had a really good name, and I think D Lee was his first pro, and then obviously he'd be working out Brad, and I got to sit in on stuff when Cam Bishad was one of our guys, and so I would go help out there, and you know, like, it was just, I knew that he was going to be somebody special in the game. I knew he was somebody special in the game, and knew that that would only get better. But that wasn't my why, and I don't have the answer for the why. I think I just stayed with it just because, you know, like, when you believe in somebody, you want to see them succeed. You want to see them excel. But you just want to see it. Like, there's a lot of people that I'd really like to see excel in things outside of what they normally do. And so I wanted that, and, you know, turns out he's done pretty well with himself.
Absolutely. That's a testament to, again, you said persistence, but it's also a testament to how important relationships are. And that's one of the things that we've really heard the coaches that we've had on have talked about, how important the relationships that they've built through the course of their time in the game, that they've been able to reach out to their network when they need help, when they need somebody, they need a recommendation, they need, hey, do you have anybody that can come work my camp? Do you have somebody that can work out my player? It's all about building those relationships and building trust. And that's what I hear you saying is you spotted something in Drew, and then as a result of your persistence, you were able to build that relationship, and now here you are 10 years later, having had some tremendous experiences as a result of those decisions that you made back, 10 years ago when you first started.
Yeah, you are 1,000% spot on. And that leads to that book. All of the people in the book, it was based on relationships. It was based on relationships I had, who I truly trusted, and then the people who they had and who they truly trusted, and it just it carried over from that. So I think everything that we do, it doesn't even have to be about basketball. Every CEO, every manager, every teacher, and every janitor, everything comes down to relationships.
So your current title is relationship manager. So that is pretty apropos. So let's talk about, why don't we go back in time first with some of the things you've done with Pure Sweat and with Drew over the years, and then lead up to kind of what your role is right now so that people get a better understanding of the process that you've gone through as part of that group.
Oh, man. Well, I'm not one to take credit. I think Drew definitely gets almost all of it. He gets the credit for the work that he's put in. I've just been fortunate to know a little bit about basketball and to be able to basically tie in exactly what he wants. We worked together for side by side. I mean, in his living room for freaking 3 straight years. 2 straight years, yeah. And I was able to hear everything that he said. I was able to be on phone calls. I don't want to say I was able to be on phone calls, but I sat and listened to him talk to the Sacramento Kings and the Indiana Pacers and the Pistons. I mean, I got to sit in on those and hear the way he talked and just soak up his knowledge. And then I was able to, help him out if he has a project or a book, or, if he wants me to write something or type something, or I have the ability to word it the way that he wants it worded. So that's been a real big benefit and a big plus for me in having the job and keeping the job and then growing and getting the job better, and being able to be a part of projects like our Skills Coaches app, the Pure Sweat app, all of our books. I've been super fortunate to be a part of those books, and so the legacy that Pure Sweat leaves, I get to say that at least I had a fingerprint on it. So and as we progress and we go now, I was director of our Skills Coaches, and our Skills Coaches are amazing guys, super passionate about growing the game all over the country, all over the world. We have 4 other coaches overseas in Europe and Spain. So, I was able to foster relationships with those guys and help them at least start their businesses and how they should grow it, and then just stay over time, stay on them to make sure that we could make them as successful as possible.
What's the process like for the guys that you bring in as skills coaches? What training do they go through with you? What's that process look like in terms of certifying them to go out and be under the Pure Sweat umbrella?
Yeah, well, we've changed things a little bit. So they've got to show quite a bit more in terms of wanting to be a part of the family. In the past, we would look at everything from social media to resume to how many clients they had, and try to get a good grip. If we didn't know who they were, then we wanted to try to reach out to somebody who did know. I mean, very similar to the same thing as somebody applying for a job. We just wanted to make sure that these guys were guys that would wear the T-shirt well, who would rep our brand well, who would not just rep the brand or rep the company, but who we wanted to be a part of a family. And I think that that's what's really, really cool about the guys that are in, because they are family. They're family to me, man. Anybody who comes over, I tell my kids, that's Uncle Matt, that's Uncle Joe, that's Uncle Jimmy, and they are family to me. So I think it's super important to try to find guys that fit you and fit what you want, and to be able to go, okay, is this somebody who I would want taking care of my kids?
How do you determine that cultural fit? Because it's not, obviously, you could probably find guys that would fit the description in terms of being able to be a basketball skills coach, but might not fit the culture that you're looking for. So what is it about somebody, when you talk to them, when you meet them, when you interview them, that makes you feel like, okay, this is the guy that's the right fit for our culture? Is there any question, is there any specific thing that you're looking for that stands out from somebody that really makes you want to have them be a part of it?
Yeah, well, hey, let's first be honest. I'm not batting 1,000. Okay, so I haven't hired all straight winners, So just like anything, like there's a possibility you get fooled, or you know what, they sounded super hungry, they were super hungry. Maybe they lost their gym and they didn't have a gym available after that, So there are certain circumstances that don't work out for some guys, but I think over time, so it's not like a one-day thing. It's as soon as I find out that these guys want to be a part of it, then we begin a communication process where I'm talking to them a lot. So it's never something that I'm talking to a guy one time and, hey, yeah, you're hired. Okay, great job. Sounds like you're a good fit. You talk with somebody enough and you can see whether or not they're authentic. And sometimes, the BS radar just wasn't on that day. But you know what? Judging by who our current Pure Sweat family is, I'd say that we're doing all right, and certainly that I've done all right. I don't want to make it sound like it's a me thing, but we have done an amazing job with who we have hired and who we've gotten to be a part of that family.
So what's the future look like for Pure Sweat in terms of what you guys foresee moving forward? And I know you have some plans with your leadership, and we'll talk about your book here in a second, but what's kind of on the horizon for Pure Sweat? What's the next step evolution? Is there something else, or just continuing to build the current network of coaches that you have? What's kind of coming up?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Drew just opened up a next mentorship. So basically, anybody who's looking for to be a part of our Pure Sweat family, they have to go through basically a 1-year thing. Now, they're fronting the bill, they're paying for this, but it's a 1-year commitment that we get to truly see whether or not these guys or girls can do the job that we want them to do, whether or not they can truly build their company, their name, their brand into what they want it to be, so then they can transition that into becoming a Pure Sweat skills coach. So it's super exciting to see, as we grow the coaches that we currently have, as we grow them, it's super exciting to see what this next membership or next mentorship will do and what can bring to our company as a whole, and what they can do to making each one of our coaches better, because that's one thing that we really do pride ourselves on. Our coaches solely rely on each other, and they call each other and they email each other and they text each other questions. Hey, what did you do that was super successful? What did you do? Well, I'm in a small market, I'm in a big market, so they're able to get better. So it'll be really interesting to see what that mentorship brings, especially with after those guys spending truly a year with Drew, and then what they're going to be able to help our current skills coaches with.
Just out of curiosity, how many inquiries do you guys get per day, week, month, of people who are saying, hey, I want to get involved with Drew? Because obviously at this point, he's gotten, a ton of publicity through the NBA guys that he works with, and, he does it. Obviously your company does a tremendous job of creating video content and being out there and being visible. So how many people are you taking inquiries from on a daily, weekly basis?
Well, let's give Sam Lamone, let's give Kyle Gilreath, Rich Zaslowski some credit for them being that team that does make the content that good. And then Drew's knowledge, obviously, they're putting in the work, and Drew's knowledge just makes the stuff go, man. That's why that stuff looks so good. It helps having JoJo be able to dribble up the floor, shoot a three, and then spin move and then dunk the crap out of the ball.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
That kind of helps. But they've done such an amazing job making that stuff look really, really good. So let's give them that credit. But yeah, man, we're truly excited, and Drew's done an amazing job. These guys are putting the company where we want to be as the future comes.
All right, so let's jump into your book project.
Sure.
The coaches season. Talk a little bit about when you first got the idea, what the general theme of it is, and then we'll move into some more specifics, and you can pub it for us.
Sure, man. I would love to do that. It's been almost a 2-year process. I had originally gotten the idea that I wanted to interview every state high school championship coach. And so I emailed every single state championship high school coach for boys and girls basketball in the country. I didn't get a lot of feedback back. And I talked with Greg White, who is a very close and mentor of mine. And he said, Jay, there's a lot of state champs out there that don't do a very good job coaching. They just had amazing talent, or they just happen to win. And so, we're talking with him a little bit. I said, you know what, you're right. And so, and plus I didn't get any feedback. So not two replies isn't going to build a very good book.
That's odd to me. That's very odd, Jason, to me, that especially when, you attach the Pure Sweat name to the project, that it just seems like one of the things that we found with the podcast is that, when we do reach out to people, they're pretty willing to come on and share, because again, who doesn't like to come on and talk about themselves and talk about what they're doing and promote what they're all about. So it seems like that's really strange to me that people wouldn't at least respond. And, if you're having an opportunity to share, I just think that for me, anytime anybody asks me and, you know, calls me up and says, hey, can you do this or can you share that? And my answer is always yes, because again, my goal is to grow the game, and then it also obviously helps the things that I'm trying to do as well. So I'm kind of surprised that you didn't get a bigger response.
Well, and I think it really did just go with what Greg talked about. You know, there's a difference in mentality and a difference in attitudes, and, you know, talking with him and talking with some others, I found like there's legendary coaches who've never won a state championship. There's coaches that know more basketball than any state champion who's won in the last 10 years combined. You know, there's coaches that know the game and just choose to be where they are. So I do think that it is situational. And, you know, some have egos. That's going to be something that we're always going to fight. Winners have a different ego. And so, you know, you were surprised. I was very surprised. And so I then took a different route. And then I started emailing all the coaches who I truly trusted, who I really loved and admired and loved watching them coach. If you're a coach that I would play for, I interviewed you. And then I would say, okay, I would talk to those guys, and then I would say, can you give me 5 coaches that you think are phenomenal at what they do? And so I kind of built it from there. And then I said, okay, we can't get any more Missouri coaches. Let's try to build it outward. And so then it grew and grew. And I mean, Mike, I've got guys who almost every single one of your speakers is in my book. So I am super excited about who I did have and the quality. And I would ask these questions and they would send the replies back. And I would instantly know whether or not I would play for them. And that's how I knew that my book was going to be really, really good, or at least have the nuggets for something special. Because these coaches are all coaches I would play for. And I think that's the separator.
So what are some of the questions that you asked them that they responded back to that you've included in the book?
You know what? Judging from how do you build relationships with players who didn't play much, who are going to be seniors or who are going to be juniors and set the bench all year. And I think that having different solutions for how they work with their players on that, I think will help a coach. Ways to deal with parents, I think is a really, really important way to do it. And I think, you know, a lot of these solutions and questions are built for coaches to have immediately or to be able to have an answer for when that time does come. You know, so the book is divided into 3 different sections. So an in-season, an off-season, and a preseason. So those questions are kind of geared more towards those specific time frames. And these coaches, you can tell when you get a copy, when you read it, that these guys are really, really prepared. And that's why they're successful. And then that's why they're really good. So we've got different things from cue words. What are cue words to fix snowballs, the snowball effect? How do we eliminate turnovers? 1 turnover turning into 2. I think that's a really big thing. So the coaches have done an amazing job with how do you deal with your practice plans. And I think that if a coach has these options, then A, they're going to get better as a coach, and B, the younger coaches are going to stay in the game just a little bit longer. Because you have one bad issue with a parent, and that young coach doesn't want to coach anymore. And that's what we're finding a lot with this game. And so I think that having the options or the ability to read this book, get a solution, can now prepare you for when that instance occurs. Then you at least are prepared for it, and then that's going to allow you to have a better answer, to respond better, which then doesn't leave both sides of the party upset or your players feel like they're a part of a team versus just being on the team.
I love that idea of having a resource for, especially for young coaches, to be able to, you know, reach onto their bookshelf and look for situations that they may face. Because I think one of the things that I know I experience this sometimes as a teacher, and I certainly have experienced it as a coach. And that is that a lot of times you feel like you're on an island and that you're the only person experiencing this situation, whether that's, again, a situation with a parent or a situation with a player or just, something that comes up during your season. You're like, God, no, nobody's experiencing this. I'm so unique here in experiencing it. And really, it's happened multiple times, hundreds of times to coaches everywhere. And so to be able to have that resource at your fingertips, to be able to go to it, and even just to know that, hey, I'm not alone. Somebody else somewhere has experienced this same thing that I'm experiencing, and now I've got some solutions. And I just think I think that's tremendous.
Well, thank you, Mike. And the other good thing too with that is on there's a way to connect with that coach, whether it's via Twitter, email, or it's Instagram, whatever it is, LinkedIn. They have that option to where, if I did experience something similar to what Coach Ralston, to what Coach Legabo said, I can communicate with them. I now have that ability to reach out, and all these coaches have been phenomenal at responding and getting back, and certainly care about the game. So they are willing to help if that situation does occur.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think one of the things that I've found, and it goes back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, is when you find the right people in the game, the people who really truly care about other coaches and the game itself and building those relationships, I think guys are pretty much an open book. There's nobody that's trying to hide things or isn't willing to share. And that's one of the things that I've really loved about the podcasting process, is just being able to pick different coaches' brains about how they handle situations, which is basically the same thing that you did in book form, and to be able to have it so that if you reach that situation, guys are willing to share. And I think that's something that none of us can take for granted. I think anybody who's willing to open up and share what they do and be able to collaborate with other coaches just makes the game of basketball a better game, and that makes me smile.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. And it's really, really exciting. These coaches, some were vulnerable, some were super honest, and they all gave nuggets. I mean, it's gold nuggets in there. I was writing them down, and I got close to there's 300 nuggets in there for me. And, I got a chance to learn from the best coach in the world, Drew. And so for me to gain 300 nuggets, that's a phenomenal feat. And so there's going to be a young coach who's going to have 500 nuggets out of that. There's 94 coaches. There's 94 coaches plus a preseason checklist. There's 94 coaches plus a preseason checklist plus off-season evaluation forms. So there's ways now that these coaches, there's no way that you can't get everything you need from this book.
So tell people how they can get your book, when it's going to be available, and let's publicize this thing.
Oh, thank you. It's on our Pure Sweat Basketball website. You just go to shop.puresweatbasketball.com, and it's our store, puresweatbasketball.com. So you go there, and the book is right there next to our shoe cleaner. And so you can choose which one you want, and hopefully it's going to be the book or the shoe cleaner. You go there, and that's the only place right now to buy it, because that's how we want it. We want it going through one site. We want it going through one source. And I love the fact that Pure Sweat is willing to put their name on it as well, because, that really means something special to me.
We're going to get that up on our on the podcast show notes, so we'll put that in there. So anybody who's listening, you can check the show notes, and you'll be able to go on and get the link so you can get on and buy Jason's book. One more book-related question for you. What was the process like for you of actually sitting down and writing the book, the actual writing process? What was that like for you?
Man, you know what? I slept through English class my junior year and in high school. And I got to tell you, I regret it. That's the only regret I have in my life.
So I'm guessing you didn't grow up wanting to be a writer, is what I'm guessing here.
No, I didn't. And I'll tell you, when I did have my brother's English teacher, she was the first editor for the book, and she sends me back like, "What are you doing?" And it's filled in with red ink. I'm like, well, this is why I slept through English class. Or this is the result of sleeping through English class. So sitting down and getting it together, I think it's really important. And probably the best thing that I learned is that I think everybody should write. Everybody. And it's one thing that I now want to do, and it's something I encourage everybody. Everybody has a story to tell. And I think that, a girl who tears her ACL, that's a story. You need to write about it. Fighting through poverty and growing up and becoming an NBA basketball player, that's something to write about. Fighting through gangs and being shot at and then becoming a businessman, that's something to write about. And I think that more people need to tell their stories, their amazing stories, through writing. And it's something that I have, because of this, it's what I tell everybody that I talk to now. Let's write about your story. I by no way am a writer. I mean, these are these coaches' words. I don't want to take any credit. These coaches, they put in their heart and soul in these answers, and so I think that they deserve all the credit. They deserve the love. So I would just encourage everybody to write. Sit down, write. I mean, my process was just trying to decide which question I wanted to keep and which question I wanted to take out. But it was something that I did over and over and over.
Yeah, I love what you said about writing. I started writing my blog like 4 years ago, and I still find it, now that I started the podcast, I have a little less time to be able to write as much as I was before. But I just love the process of being able to sit down and put your thoughts on paper. And I think one of the things that, if I think back on my life, I wish that I would have written down more of the stories from my basketball playing career, and then also from my time when I was coaching in high school, because there's a lot of great stories that, the older I get, the fuzzier those memories become. And if I would have sat down and written, whether it was just as simple as just writing in a journal and taking those notes, I would have had something to go back to that I could have written. So I think you make a great point for anybody who's out there, that if you do have a chance and you're going through something, especially as a basketball coach, or you're still playing the game, or you're the parent of a high school player, if you write down some of the things that you're experiencing, I think you're going to end up being very, very happy at some point in the future that you have that writing to look back on, even if it doesn't turn into a book, even if it's for nothing but your own memories. I think that's a great piece of advice, Jason.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that.
All right, let's go to one last thing. I don't know how much you do or don't want to talk about it, but I know when we talked earlier, you mentioned that you were going to start working on some leadership stuff. Is there anything that you want to talk about, share with that? Because I know you said it was in kind of the development stage.
Oh, yeah. You know what? It's still far outside of the window, but it's something that in the summertime that my coach and I, we're going to take high school coaches, whether they are basketball coaches or cross-country coaches, but we're going to take coaches and their seniors out to the mountains, and we're going to take them through leadership training. We're going to take them through team training. We're going to take them through stuff that's going to really push their boundaries and push their limits. From a player, from a vulnerability standpoint, from an authenticity standpoint, from a, hey, we got to make it up this mountain standpoint. And, I'm a firm believer that you're not anywhere closer to God than you are at the top of that mountain. And it's something really, really amazing. And so we want to be able to give that leadership to them, as well as providing coaches with solutions and ways to impact their team while they're on that trip as well. And it doesn't go against any state regulations or violations or anything like that, because they don't have a basketball or they don't have a football or they don't have a baseball with them. It's something solely on building that relationship with the coach, their seniors, and giving them both pieces to be successful as a team when stuff hits the fan in the following year, in the upcoming year.
How did you develop the, I guess, curriculum, may not be the right word, but how did you develop the things that you're planning to teach as a part of that experience?
You know what? Part of that is learning for me is being able to ask the right questions when I'm interviewing coaches. Because then we can kind of find what's really, really important for coaches to be able to know, what they already know, and what they're really good at being able to relay. So how can we get them to understand, get the kid to understand what it is they're seeing, what they're wanting, and to do it in a way that the kid, trusts them. So that's part of it. And then the other part is, my high school coach taught leadership. And the first book he ever gave me was The Leadership Challenge by Posner and Kuzes. And so he has the curriculum basically already made and has the team challenges already done. It's just now it was us finding a place that we could make that work. And we already know the impact because we do it every year on what that mountain will do.
What's the mountain?
Well, last year for us, it was Mount Lincoln. There's, I think, 55 14,000-foot mountains in Colorado, or across the country, and most of them are in Colorado. So we don't have a set mountain yet, but it's going to choose us. Let's say that.
That's very cool. I think anybody who would get a chance to experience that, whether you're a coach or a player, that's one of the things that, again, if I think back to my time as a young coach, a lot of that stuff that now I'm very passionate about, when I was a young coach, I wasn't, I don't know, even aware of the fact of how important some of those intangible things with leadership and character and being a great teammate. I think those are things that I've come to appreciate and understand how important they are to both a coach's success, a team's success, a player's success. And so to hear somebody that's passionate about that, again, I can feel it coming through the microphone, just how genuine you are about wanting to make an impact on kids and coaches and the game and making it more important. So before we get out of here, Jason, two things. One, if there's anything that we didn't talk about, that we didn't hit on, something that you want to share with the audience, go ahead and do that now. And then if not, if you could just share how people can reach out to you and get in contact with you, that would be great. And again, we can't thank you enough for jumping on with us.
Oh man, well, thank you. First off, I just want people to know that it is possible. I mean, with the right work, with the right coaching, I mean, it's going to take investment on your end as well. So it's not just me sacrificing, but I've got to invest in something. And if there's something I don't know, then I'm going to have to invest in finding a way to learn it. And so I think that it's important for us to figure out what we need to know and how we need to invest in it, and then to get better at it. So that's for every kid, that's for every player, that's for every leader, that's for everybody. Is if there's something we really want, we got to figure out a way to get it. And that's going to be busting our tail and trying to find a way to invest. And then the other thing would be for contacting me, it's Coach J Fry on social media, on Instagram and Twitter. And then my email is jfry@puresweatbasketball.com. And man, I just pride myself on trying to respond within 7 to 10 hours of an email. So as soon as they have a question, I want to be able to answer and be able to give the best service possible. So that's how we're rocking with it.
There you go. All right, folks, well, you heard it. You got an open invitation from Jason to reach out to him. If you've listened to the entire podcast tonight, I'm sure you can tell that he's going to be a wealth of knowledge for you. Certainly he was for us tonight and for the audience out there. Jason, again, we want to say thank you for jumping on the episode with us tonight. And to everybody out there, we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks.
If you're looking for a great way to spend the holidays playing some basketball, please join us at one of our Head Start basketball holiday camps on December 27th and 28th, 2018. We'll have a camp at Hoop Guru Courthouse in Hinckley and also at St. Paschal Baylon School in Highland Heights. The Head Start Basketball Holiday Camps will emphasize the fundamentals of basketball with individual attention given to each camper. You'll improve your basketball skills and have a ton of fun at the Head Start Basketball Holiday Camp. To register or get more information, please visit our website, www.headstartbasketball.com. Head Start Basketball's Player Development Academy offers Cleveland area players a unique opportunity to improve their basketball skills. Regardless of a player's age, skill level, or position, training with Head Start Basketball will elevate your game to the next level. Do you want to improve your ball handling, become a better shooter, or develop into a more skilled, confident player? Our Academy classes offer training that's designed to do just that. Our training sessions are innovative and will have you learning skills that are transferable to actual games. We have 4 different class skill levels for boys and girls, ages 4 and up. All Player Development Academy classes will be held at the Strongsville Recreation Center. For more information or to get registered, please visit www.headstartbasketball.com. Thanks for listening to the Hoop Heads podcast, brought to you by Head Start Basketball.